Pray for me tonight. I can't say goodbye, 'cause they call upon me. They call upon me. It feels like a dream. Say, they call upon me. For me tonight, I can't say goodbye, 'cause they call upon me. They call upon me. It feels like a dream. Say, they call upon me.
The campaign continues out in the West Coast, deep into the desert, where one place stands out above the rest to set the stage for the next opportunity at a race victory. Phoenix stands as the next test in the schedule, where tonight, for the virtual Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, Arizona, we welcome you to the third race of Season 2 in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series and the Cactus 125. We're being on the third challenge in the season, and we are so happy to have you join us right here on the KBueno Racing Network. We're up in the broadcast booth. My name is Kenneth Bueno, and for the first time this season, we have our opportunity to challenge with a short track. This is the first time we do see a short track in this 2022-2023 schedule. We had our super speedway race to kick off the season at Daytona, had our intermediate race at Las Vegas 1 week ago, and now it's our time to shorten things up and see which drivers are better on the short tracks and which ones may need a little work going into the rest of the campaign. But before we get into all of the details as to what we're going to see tonight from the virtual Phoenix Raceway, it will be our time to go through your season schedule, see exactly how things will fare for the rest of 2022, and of course entering 2023 in March when we get to that championship finale at Homestead Miami Speedway. We kicked off the season at Daytona in regular fashion for stock car seasons. Las Vegas intermediate race was a fantastic one, a lot of strategy involved, and we'll also talk about that in just a little bit. Phoenix, though, our third stop on the calendar, our first short track, and the first one that we'll see in a very long time. Myrtle Beach in race number 10 will be the next proper short track. You can count Charlotte Dirt as a short track, but that's a dirt track, so that's going to be in completely its own category. We do go to Kansas, so we continue our intermediate stretch 1 week from tonight. Then we head to Auto Club Speedway, Long Beach, making its debut on the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series calendar. Have our patriotic race at the Texas Motor Speedway for race number 7. And there's only 10 races. That Myrtle Beach race that we mentioned before, that's the final regular season event before we kick off the playoffs near the end of 2022. Then we start 2023. Then we go to Charlotte, Bristol, Pocono for the first round, Chicagoland, Talladega, and Martinsville to decide the final 4 drivers that will tussle for that championship at Homestead Miami Speedway in mid-March. So we talk about Phoenix tonight and what we're going to expect in the future, but let's take a look in the rearview mirror to 1 week ago, where at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, it was a great race from start to finish. One caution all the way through, lots of green flag action, and it started with Dimitri Manjos on the pole of the race, with Garrett White immediately taking the lead, and didn't take him long to command the race for a little bit. Manjos would then strike back, but then came our first and really only caution of the entire race. Austin Doran, Logan Tsuyi, the 19 and the 55. You see there in your shot, they get collected together on the back straightaway, lap number 2. And then right about there, they get involved in that crash, slam the inside wall. Austin Doran would then rebound for a top 10. Tsuyi, on the other hand, not so fortunate. You see Timmy Spatz also involved in that crash. But we may see Austin Doran here tonight from Phoenix. He'll be looking for another career victory in his WORC Dynamo Designs National Series career. This was a big development in the middle of the race under pit road strategy. Garrett White ran the tank out into turn 3 and let Ethan Workman get by to the race lead. You see Workman coming down to pit road. That was a big blunt to White, who would then rebound for a top 10, much like Austin Doran did. But this looked very bleak, but it was Dimitri Manjos' race to lose, and even through strategy, through all the trials, Manjos was able to overcome all of it and cross the start-finish line for his first ever WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory, and a lot of celebration for that number 60. He becomes the second driver to get a first-time win in season number 2, and he joins Canadian Jay Mulder as the 2 drivers in our first 2 races to have done the very same feat. And that's also a big thing as well when you think about the context of how this championship may unfold, because the first 2 races, we've seen 2 drivers get to victory lane, not just overall, but for the very first time in their WORC Dynamo Designs National Series career. So there could be the possibility that we see a third in that mix as well, and that could provide for a lot of drama here in the desert in Avondale, Arizona. Well, as qualifying has ticked down to 0, it is our time to head trackside and give you your starting grid. See exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight in the Cactus 125 from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. On pole will be the number 03 of Hayes Booth. He will have the first starting spot on the race. He'll be the first to see the green flag. Austin Doran with a beautiful qualifying effort. He'll join on the outside in that first row. Ethan Workman looking to gain some redemption after the loss at Las Vegas 1 week past. He'll start third with a 27.479. Dimitri Manjos, your defending winner from last week, looking to make it 2 in a row, and he'll be the first since Austin Doran to do that, and Garrett White as well. John Canizaro starts inside the top 5. Joe Bergen, the number 41, will be on the outside outside in P6, row number 3. Brandon Sampson in the 96 will be 7th. It'll be Sky McGurk in P8 to round out row number 4. And then Timmy Spatz and Cole Day, the 54, and the 999 will be the final 2 inside your top 10. Gino Mero in the 71 starts inside of row number 6. He rolls off from 11th starting spot. Garrett White will be to his outside in P12. Connor Hervilla, Ryan Barone, the 29, and the 46 will be the drivers back to 14th. Ryan Kame and Ryan Zabo, the 2 pair of Ryans in row number, I believe that's row number 8, this time 15th and 16th. Brayson Collins, your league owner, starts 17th. Row number 9, he'll have James Bomar to his outside in that 18th starting spot. Steven Shipman in the 61 will be in P19. Ryan Martin will have to do a lot on the starting grid tonight as he rolls off from P20. Caden Rife, Jarek Hernandez, the 97 and the 64 doubling up in row number 11. Clayton Ramstead and the 991 of Chris Downey start 23rd and 24th respectively on the grid. Defending series champion Josh Patterson has had a rough going to start this season off, and tonight is no different in qualifying. He starts from 25th. Frederick Seagraves will be 26th alongside him in that row. Brady Cox, TJ Lair, the 86 and the 85 to P28, and the final driver in this field to set a qualifying time, Chase Marsden in the number 89. We do have a couple of more drivers in here as well. Cole Williams making his first start in the 896. He rolls off from P30. Duncan Fall in 31st, and Henry Clapper. We'll see if he can make it to the green flag, but he has not shown up on the pit stall, so hopefully we do see that 34 back in action, but for right now, it does not seem to be the case. So first 2 races, 2 different first-time winners, and it's Hayes Booth looking for his first WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory. Austin Doran looking for what would be his 3rd career victory here at Phoenix and his first at this track. Parker White was the winner last time we were here. Parker White not here in this race, so we may see a brand new winner guaranteed. Maybe a first-timer, maybe not, but we'll just have to find out. Booth and Doran, your front row, lead us to the start-finish line with Barney, the flagman, and we're racing in the Cactus 125 from Phoenix. And caution flag already out on the track, and there is a pileup there on the back straightaway. And that is Caden Rife in the 97. Looks to be the main driver involved. You see a bit of damage there on the left side of his Seattle Mariners Ford Mustang. And it looks like there might have been a couple of other drivers tagged in this as well. There's a bit of damage to Chris Downey's machine, the 991. Remember, those 2 drivers started deep in tonight's field. And already, before we can complete an official lap, our first caution out here at lap number 1. So this happened exiting turn number 2, and this is a different look at Phoenix Raceway to what we're accustomed to seeing. Of course, back then we had the configuration with turns 1 and 2 being on the other end of the racetrack, and you see a couple of drivers already smack the outside wall, but the big issue here is this 97 just getting a little too sideways and overcorrecting, tags into Brady Cox in the 86. They both hit the outside wall, or the inside wall rather, and then sideways goes Rife. And there were a couple of drivers who had smacked the outside wall, and it looks like there may have been some more trouble this time for Jarek Hernandez. And here on board with the 64, around he goes in the middle of the racetrack, and I think that's exactly what might have caused the caution instead of what happened with Caden Rife and company. They were able to keep their cars righted, but for the number 64 of Hernandez, it looks like that was not the case. He has since brought it down to pit road. So under caution here for the first time from the virtual Phoenix Raceway, and while we are under caution in this first leg of this Cactus 125, let's get a little more detail as to where we are in the virtual world. We'll take a look at our KBRN track map with images, of course, provided to us by Google Earth. This Phoenix Raceway opened back in 1964, but it has a rejuvenated look as of 2017. Had a beautiful reconfiguration and a new look to the branding for this track in Avondale, Arizona, but still the 1.0 miles, 1 mile flat, 1.609 kilometers you'll find in its previous editions. Of course, 8 to 9 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2, 10 to 11 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. And the whole change with this Phoenix Raceway was adding the start-finish line and putting it near the dogleg just before you get there at the exit of what used to be the turns 1 and 2, but now it's on the other end. So turns 1 and 2 are the exit of the dogleg going into the corner, and then what used to be the main front straightaway is now turns 3 and 4 out on the racetrack. So a pretty big reconfiguration, sort of similar to the Texas Motor Speedway and how they completely redefined the racetrack. And when they updated it on the iRacing service, it has since become a beautiful setting to go sim racing. And we do also have Victory Lane open as well. So whoever does take the checkered flag tonight in this Cactus 125 will have a nice trot to that Victory Lane podium. And they'll be able to celebrate, put their cars there, and get a couple of screenshots under the nightfall. So I believe next time by, we'll get the 1 to green signal from the iRacing official pace car. Hayes Booth, Austin Dorn, still your front row. Really no changes amongst your top 5 and even some of your top 10. A lot of the guys near the back, that's where you'll see a lot of those changes. Brady Cox, Cole Williams, Ryan Martin, Chris Downey, Clayton Ramstead, Jarek Hernandez, Henry Clappert, who was getting his lap back here. So fortunately, he was able to start tonight's race. And just all of them making changes, and almost pretty much everybody there coming down pit road, maybe for some tires, but mostly just for fuel. And we should expect a green flag stop. That is, of course, if we are in that run. Similar to Las Vegas, we had a lot of green flag stops just because of the lack of cautions in that race. And hopefully we see some of the same strategy come into play tonight. And it looks like, because of the rule for WORC, that if we do have a caution inside 5 laps after a restart, or in this case the initial start, we will have the field restart single file, and they will all be chasing that number 03 of Hayes Booth. So pace car is off. They'll make that long way to the start-finish line. This is one thing about the iRacing service. It does take a while. Pace car comes down way earlier than you would expect, and then you have to make that pace speed all the way to turns 3, exit turn 4, and then make the gas pedal work coming out of the final corner, entering the Geico restart zone. No problem for Hayes Booth, back under green. Lap number 6 here from Phoenix. And a quick start there for Hayes Booth, similar to the initial jump, no problems. And for everybody else in the top 5 and even some of your top 10, all single file. I think for turn 3, there's a look at Joe Berge, Dimitri Maljos, and Sky McGurk, the 60, the 41, and the 82. Currently running 5th through 7th on the racetrack, and they're starting to pack it up around your top 3, because there's John Canizaro trying to work on Ethan Workman, and Workman, the driver, who did fall short at Las Vegas 1 week ago, looking for some revenge and looking for his 2nd career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory, right on board with the Chevy Camaro, exiting turn number 2, and looking on that 55, trying to hunt down on the rear bumper and make sure he can get around. It looks like he is continuing to keep pace with Doron for the moment. They are still letting Hayes Booth run away. He has opened it up to roughly 0.7 of a second, and that will matter in the grand scheme of things once we get into that long run. Berge now under defense. Brandon Sampson, Cole Day trying to make a move here on the outside of turns 1 and 2. And for the moment, Sampson cannot quite break free, get to that 41. So for the moment, still whole field single file. Not many people making moves, and the caution out again, and more trouble. Looks like the 85, TJ Lair, sideways and severely damaged. Caution out for the 2nd time tonight. Here's Lair trying to get back up to the gears, and it looks like just a multi-car incident. You'll see how it all started here. I believe that's Frederick Seagraves there in the 93, the 85 right in front of him. And that's Chase Marsden in the 89. You just look at that, a huge hit to the 85, and you see the 21 involved in it, the 991. There's the 97, Caden Rife, Jarek Hernandez, 2 drivers who were involved in the opening caution, exiting turn 2, are in the crash this time by entering turn 1. So we'll see again exactly what happened to the driver of the 85. Here's a look at Lair's perspective. Well, that's an ugly view there. The car bouncing all over the place, and the 85 taking flight for a moment before landing on all 4 wheels, and then the 2nd hit dealt by Jarek Hernandez rips off the front clip and even severely damages the rear end of that Camaro. And it looks like Lair's night might be over. And no fast repairs awarded to the drivers in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. So if you do get damaged, just like we've said in the past 2 races, you're going to have to deal with all of that on pit road. And for the driver of the 85, Lair, that's going to be a significant amount of damage. He's going to spend a lot of time down there, and we should expect him to at least go 1 lap down. And such a tough break for him as he tries to make things work, and hopefully we see him back on the track. And it's still early in this race, so a lot of time to get that car repaired, a lot of time to get back in this race. But for sure, you'd rather have no damage, you'd rather not be involved in an incident and be involved in a scuffle this early on, especially at a place like Phoenix where laps tick down so fast. And telemetry tells us if we go green from here on to the end of the race, it's only a measly 35 minutes, so we're not going that long. That is, of course, if we stay green, but we've had these opening 2 cautions. We'll just have to find out, but still, Hayes Booth still in control. Open it up to roughly 0.8 of a second on the opening jump, and Hayes Booth very strong in the first 2 races and has shown some promise, but unfortunately has not found the positioning to be there at the end. We'll see if tonight is the turnaround, and they will have the 1 to green signal from the iRacing official pace car, so they will double things up. And again, it'll be the Ford Mustang of Hayes Booth in control of the restart when we get to it at lap number 12 of 84. So in the last 2 races combined, 3 cautions altogether. Remember that 1 caution with Austin Doran and Logan Suyi at Las Vegas? We had many cautions at Daytona, but if you don't count the first race of the season, the last 2 have relatively been caution-free, at least Vegas was. And tonight already changing on a different pace. 2 cautions in the opening 10 laps. Hopefully we see some more long green flag action. So again, everybody waiting for Hayes Booth to give discretion once they enter to the Geico restart zone to resume this Cactus 125 from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. The 03 will bring him out of turn 4 into the restart zone, and up, and away he goes. The Ford Mustang leads the field back to turn 1. Look at the whole field now crunched up this time through, and side by side they go for 3rd, and even further behind, John Canizaro under fire from Ethan Workman entering turn 3. And now here comes Dimitri Maljos, Brandon Sampson, who gets into Sky McGuirk. McGuirk's going to go sideways. Will the caution flag wave? Yes, it will. And again, for the 3rd time in this Cactus 125, we are under the rest of the iRacing official pace car on a harmless side spin by Sky McGuirk. And to see exactly what might have happened in the aftermath, but we saw what happened as of the live shot. Brandon Sampson sliding a little bit too high in 3 and 4. You look at Cole Day barely getting by and tagging the outside wall on the way there. But not much here that Sky McGuirk could do. The 82 who finished on the podium at Daytona in the first race, and unfortunately just gets dealt a bad card as Sampson slides up the track. And that's one thing that we'll see often. Once you wear out that right front, it can be easy to tighten this car through the corner and slide up the racetrack. And when you're diving that hard on the brakes, that car is carrying too much speed up the track. And the banking at some point, and for Sampson, it looked like he really tried to dive it on Dimitri Maljos, had to check up. His car just slid up a little too high. And Sky McGuirk, nothing he could do there as he goes sideways, but a great job to pop on the brakes, lock the car up, and avoid hitting the outside wall. So he escapes without any damage, but the track position going to be severely lost on this run. And we'll see if Sky McGuirk comes down pit road, but that Harley-Davidson machine in trouble early on, and again under caution for the 3rd time tonight here from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. So while we're under caution, it'll be our time to take a moment of appreciation for one of the paint schemes in this evening's race. This is the 41 of Joe Berge. Remember, we saw him leading a couple of laps last week at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And tonight, a very special paint scheme on his Chevy Camaro that he changed manufacturers from last season, and a new number as well, and a new look in commemoration for his girlfriend, Maddie, who's going into surgery tomorrow morning. We wish the best for Maddie, and we wish for a speedy recovery. And it's awesome that Joe Berge is able to show this out of the racetrack in tribute for her. Has some of her favorite shows on Netflix on the Chevy Camaro. That is Big Mouth and BoJack Horseman. And again, on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, wishing the best for Maddie and wishing for a speedy recovery after the surgery tomorrow morning. So Berge, I believe, came down pit road on that last caution, so he dropped to 24th. Remember, he had a solid starting spot in this Cactus 125, and hopefully we get to see Berge back in action up at the front. If he can get there, fresh tires might help his case as well. Berge, the winner from last season's event at the Auto Club Speedway, performing a fantastic 3-wide move in the closing laps to take the win away in clutch fashion. And Berge still chasing for that second career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory, as are many drivers looking still for their first and even for their second in cases. And it looks like this time we have the lights out on the pace car. So again, we'll go green at lap number 17 of 84. And once more, it'll be Hayes Booth at the front of the field. The only real change is around your top 5, top 6. Cannizzaro has moved into 3rd. Ethan Workman has settled into 4th. Dimitri Malandros rounding out your top 5. And then, of course, with the contact involving Brandon Sampson and Sky McGuirk. McGuirk now all the way to the tail end of the field. Brandon Sampson still holding his position strong in 6th. So pace car is down. Hayes Booth will have discretion. And once more, in WORC rules, if we do have a caution within 5 laps after the restart, we will have a single file grouping all the way back to the green flag. It looks like that will be the same. Maybe some battles stifled as a result. But Hayes Booth still in control and looking to command this race, as he will have Austin Dorn right behind him trying to give chase. But the 03 with the advantage entering the Geico restart zone. The 03 hops on the gas pedal through the gears, back underway in the Cactus 125. Been smooth sailing for Hayes Booth on these restarts, and even though the cautions have come out at worse times where he's been leading this race, it's felt like Booth has not crumbled whatsoever. There's Cannizzaro already looking on Austin Dorn for 2nd. But everybody's all single file in each other's dirty air, just trying to make sure they survive for the most part, make sure they do not end up in an accident. There's Brandon Sampson there right behind Dimitri Malandros and Ethan Workman that may go at it for P4. This was the duo going at it at Las Vegas 1 week prior. Both of these guys so strong at the intermediate track, and you have to imagine what they could do at Kansas next week just based on their performances so far at Las Vegas, and already doing well here at the short track from Phoenix. And again, everybody's still single file. Possibly our first battle, maybe within the top 10. This is Timmy Spatz in the 54, Ryan Barone in the 46, and Barone going to use all of that dog leg to get to the very bottom. We'll see if he's able to do it, but for right now, cannot make the move, and a huge dive on the brakes, almost slammed into the rear end of Spatz's machine. Unfortunately, they make no contact and will stay green. The whole field, pretty much all single file, nobody in a battle for the moment. That's something you have to somewhat employ here at this Phoenix Raceway. You don't really want to do anything crazy. This track is pretty hard to pass with the multiple lanes that are offered, most notably in turns 1 and 2. As here comes Barone officially for the inside pass on Spatz. This is for P9 on the racetrack. But it is so remarkably hard to make moves, especially with this car. And so everybody wanting to make sure they can last to the end of the race and at least get to somewhat of a long green flag run. Spatz still fighting hard on the outside. But Ryan Barone looking to make this pass complete into turn 3. And he will for a moment. And he may officially clear. Coming out of turn 4. Looks like Spatz going to keep himself tucked to the outside. But Ryan Barone trying all that he can to get around the 40, or the 54 rather, for P9. Looks like he'll be able to do it, so Ryan Barone slips into 9th. Spatz falls to 10th. And there is Garrett White here now catching up to the competition. Garrett White in the 26. Close to stardom at Las Vegas. Started on the outside of row number 1. Then ran out of fuel as of lap 29 on a long green flag stretch. Lost the lead to Ethan Workman and had to play catch up from there on out. Lost so much time as a result. But now trying to pick things up dramatically here. Garrett White, arguably one of the best drivers in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, and going to power to the outside on former Championship 4 rival from last season, Timmy Spatz, and a clear pass for 10th. So Garrett White on the march up through the field as of lap 22. And Garrett with 2 short track wins last season, one at Bristol, one at Iowa. It felt like two completely different races where White had dominated Iowa from start to finish, led every single lap, and then Bristol had to play a little bit of a fighting game to get to that checkered flag first. And we'll keep monitoring that number 26 of White as he continues to weave inside the top 10. But here's a look back at the race lead. Hayes Booth still controlling over Austin Dorn in the 55. As we approach 60 laps to go, it has been Hayes Booth's race to lose. But the good thing here for Austin Dorn, number 03 has not officially opened up the gap by that much. It's roughly 0.8 of a second we saw on one of our last runs before the caution. And this time it's roughly 0.4 of a second. But it's closed down at 0.3 of a second at times. And it looks like Austin Dorn is there, and he's there to fight. But It looks like it may just last into a long green flag run. These guys going on lap 25 of their stints, but you also have to imagine the cautions. They make the tires cold. And so they're not wasting as much rubber as they would usually do on a long run. And here's a look at Austin Doran as he chases for turn 3. Now still looking on your race leader. That was a beautiful last lap by. A little slower than your race leader that time through. But for the 55, he is closing and closing quickly. That time faster than your leader. 28.710 for Doran. 28.778 for Hayes Booth. So this driver is certainly on his way. And as you ride on board with the number 55, he is inching closer to potentially give us our first lead change of the night. To strike as there's a couple of cars getting around the lap car, and Garrett White, actually that's not a lap car, that's Cole Day in the 999. We saw him strike the outside wall with Sky McGurk's incident, and here comes Ryan Barone to the inside as well. So somewhat of a coupled effort here by White and by Barone through the field. A little bit of a tough maneuver there for Barone to get officially to the inside of Day, so he'll have to wait another lap. But Garrett White already up to 7th and creeping up on P6, and that's Ethan Workman right on board with White in the 26. Haven't seen that many drivers use the dog leg, but for White, it's going to go to his advantage. Workman going to back out, and Garrett White moving into P6. It's been such a great maneuver here in the first 28 laps, and it tests the long run pace of all of these guys in the field as Barone and Day continue to go at it for PA. But Garrett White, one of the drivers that we've seen better on the long runs, is Day, I believe, got sent into turn 3, will smack the outside wall and almost came to a full halt. The caution will not fly as he tries to limp it out on the racetrack. The whole field going through without a problem. Oh, and that's Cole Williams having to drift by. Almost some contact between the two. But Cole Day in trouble. But we will stay green as of lap 29. We'll see exactly what happened, and whether this was just a solo incident or whether Barone maybe gave him some help, and he did. Just gave him a little bump. Day got sideways, and bam, he goes. Now to the outside safer barrier. What a tough break for Day, who was running cleanly inside the top 10. And now here he is bringing that car down to pit road. As the caution not going to wave, and he may go a lap down or more. Here's Dimitri Moundros fighting for third on John Canizaro. Moundros will strike the outside wall. He'll chase for the inside of the racetrack, and Canizaro will take the position back. And drama building up late in the going of this first run. That's something oftentimes you could do here at this Phoenix Raceway. You wear out that right front, you push the car a little too hard with the lack of downforce, and you're going to find a way to hit that safer barrier, whether it's out of turn 4 or out of turn 2. We've seen a lot of guys do it, most notably on that back straightaway. And they could tag even the best of drivers. It was a phenomenon last season at the race here at Phoenix, where many times multiple drivers had problems understeering the car coming out of that second corner and easily striking the outside wall, because you're pushing so much speed and you're just trying to arc the car in the right way, especially turns 1 and 2, a very long corner, a lower banked corner than what you would see in turns 3 and 4. So you have to play that a little differently than you would the other end of the race course. And so because of that, a lot of drivers try to do the best they can to put as much throttle as Doran almost makes contact there with the lap car of Brady Cox in the 86. As he continues to move into second. Again, that's a big problem here at this track, and that's the last thing you want to do. Make that car tighten up even more and just severely tear up that right front as you arc it for the exit of the corner. And you're seeing your top 2 leaders do that. They use the very high side, the 3rd or 4th lane, entering the corner, and they arc it down to try to get the best out of their steering. And just get as much throttle coming out of it to carry as much speed. It seems to be working for both your race leader and Austin Doran, who have pulled away about almost 2 seconds to the battle for third. Remember Dimitri Moundros getting around Canizaro, then hitting the outside wall, and then losing it all over again. Moundros is back for the attack, the winner from Las Vegas last week. And they're going to get around Cox, the lap car here in the 86 up in front. It looks like Canizaro going to be able to hold through. They may be 3 wide entering turn 3. Moundros going to back out. And Moundros playing the patient game at this point, and maybe force Canizaro into a mistake. You see just how long it takes for him to get back in that throttle. And listen on board, this is going to be a little bit of an interesting route through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 as he hops on the brakes and goes back on the gas. See him patiently trying to modulate the throttle, get that car arced completely. And then that's when he hops officially back 100%, especially in 3 and 4. Hops on the brakes, slides the car in, tries to push Canizaro up the track, and tries to modulate the throttle. And right here, plants, and he's going to get to the inside of the 018 and almost force him into the outside wall. But Maunjo's trying to aggressively bully his way in a third. And Maunjo's going to make the pass. Canizaro looking to fight back, and all the while, they're letting Garrett White, who has now stepped into the top 5 for the first time this evening, get to these two. It looks like Maunjos will officially make that pass complete. Won't have a fight back. And Maunjos into the top 3 once again, looking for his second straight in the second season of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. So as we move through lap number 37 of 84 and closing in on halfway, here's the battle for the lead. And still between Hayes Booth and Austin Doran. It looks like Doran faster those last couple times by. But he has yet to officially get around this 03. It's been such a tough route. And it looks like although Doran has a lot of the speed available to him and his Chevy Camaro, it looks like Hayes Booth just doing such a nice job to hold him off and keep him at bay. And it looks like Doran will still fight there behind, and we'll keep an eye on that as it moves through. Here's a huge pack around your top 17. This is Chris Downey, Cole Williams, Connor Hervilla. Cole Williams, a longtime driver featured on the KBueno Racing Network. If you can remember him back from the iRacing Bungeon Lawn Care Series, a driver who picked up a couple of wins on his season. Also in the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, we saw him get to victory lane in a green-white-checkered scenario at this very track back when it was in its old configuration. And Cole Williams, nice to see him out on the racetrack in his Toyota Supra, making his first WORC Dynamo Designs National Series start in this campaign as he goes door-to-door with Connor Hervilla. This is for the entrance in a P13. And they'll have Ryan Kame in the 23. A bit of contact, though, between the two. But it looks like Williams going to be able to get to the inside. And Cole Williams into the top 13 as we have drivers on pit road. That's Gino Merrill, Timmy Spatz, Brandon Sampson, Garrett White, John Canizaro, and practically everybody in the field. There's Hayes Booth, your former race leader and pole sitter on the pit lane. And it looks like everybody taking their trip for service this time by. As Austin Doran will stay at an extra lap, and here he comes for service for the first time tonight, lap 40. So Dimitri Maunjos will take control of the lead. Ethan Workman, Joe Berge looking to stay out as your top 3. There's Ryan Kame, Cole Williams. It looks like they're both also going to stay out. That was Ryan Barone. He came down pit road one of the last times through. Sky McGurk, we saw him at the very rear of the field as he now moves up to P6. There's Gino Merrill. There's a look at a couple of others coming out. That's Josh Patterson. And then there's Austin Doran getting 4 fresh tires and some fuel. And we'll see when Dimitri Maunjos will come in for service. It looks like this time he'll stay out again an extra lap. And he'll try to extend it as long as possible. And this is going to be the interesting thing about this race is that strategy is going to matter at some point, like it is at the moment. And we're seeing drivers get to around lap 40, lap 41, but you can only go if you cannot push it past lap 40. There's a car there in the inside wall, but the caution not out. Now the caution waves with multiple drivers on pit road, and that's the 28 Duncan Few in trouble out of turn 2. We saw him sideways as Maunjos was completing his lap. And we'll see exactly what happened here with Few, whether he had a problem all by himself or whether he had some help. This is look at the 28. He's coming out of pit road, so gets 4 fresh tires and fuel. And you have to imagine cold tires might be the culprit as he grabs the apron and the car just slides sideways, backs it up, tries to lock it down. And there's nothing he could do to avoid. There's Maunjos coming out of turn 2. And Duncan Fall rather, in trouble. And here's a look on board with a 28. He right there just catches that transition, and something we could see often here at Phoenix. You don't want to grab that apron, slide up the track, but if you do, when those left sides grip, especially on fresh rubber, it's really going to hurt because that car is going to immediately step sideways. And for Fall, there was really nothing he could do and try to get out of harm's way. but ultimately that brings us under our caution. That is going to help Ethan Workman and Dimitri Malandros heavily here. They're both going to be able to pit, and they're going to trap a lot of guys a lap down or more. Duncan Fall, Chase Marsden, Brady Cox among those a lap down, but so many drivers having to stay out this time by. Looks like Berge going to come for a second time. Looks like a splash of fuel for the number 41, and he'll come out ahead of the competition and most importantly in the race lead. So Joe Berge will be in control of the restart underneath. 40 laps to go in this Cactus 125. Under caution once again for the 4th time here from Phoenix, Arizona. But don't go anywhere. We've got more coverage for you on the other side as we continue race number 3 of Season 2 of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
It's the thirstiest time of the year. I have just one query.
Want a Sprite cranberry?
The answer is clear. It's the thirstiest time of the year. Sprite, let's go.
Beyond the Lights Road to Charlotte is out now. Join Justin Haley and Quentin Haley in a 4-part documentary series as they take on the famed dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. All episodes are available now, and you can visit youtube.com/limeademedia and their YouTube channel to start watching today. Ready for green flag action once again in this Cactus 125, right off of our 4th caution of the evening. We'll have a restart at lap 47 of 84 with Joe Berge and Ethan Workman in control of the field. Joe Berge coming out of pit road first. And a 14.5-second stop, and it looks like we'll go once more. They might have extended the caution. So it looks like they'll try to catch the iRacing official pace car. A little bit of confusion there. It looked like we were going to go back under green that time through. It looks like we'll have a little more time, as I think the pace car will come down this time through, and then it will officially have a green flag restart. Might have just been with race control having some problems getting everybody lined up together. There were multiple drivers trapped a lap down as a result of that most recent yellow in the middle of green flag stops, and it has changed the game, changed the strategy, and most importantly, it's changed the look at the front. With Joe Berge, Ethan Workman, your front row, Sky McGurk, Cole Williams third and fourth on the racetrack, and Steven Shipman for the first time for him all race long. He has now entered the top 5. So ready for a green flag, lap number 48 of 84, and well past halfway as the field will catch the Geico restart zone, and it'll be all on Joe Berge hopping on the gas pedal back under green from Phoenix. Great start by your race leader. Almost a challenge there for second. Coming out of turn 2, that's Ethan Workman, Sky McGurk going at it here. Steven Shipman underneath Ryan Kame for P5. And doing such a great job. We saw the strategy really take care of all of the business for your leaders. At least put them in the back of the field. And Hayes Booth on the freshest tires, looking to make it 3 wide. Entering turn 1, he'll make it underneath Clayton Ramstead and John Canizaro. And they may be 3 wide again. That's Austin Doran in the 55, trying to make something work. No contact, and Hayes Booth up to P8, trying to get back to P1. It was unfortunate there for Doran, for Booth, for Canizaro, for all of those leaders who had been out front, had come down pit road and just got that untimely caution at the worst possible event in the race. And now here's Ryan Kame again going at it with Steven Shipman. This is for the entrance into the top 5. And Dimitri Maljos weaving to the bottom and getting out of harm's way as Kame had to check up. And Maljos looking to the inside. He'll make that pass complete for P6. We'll talk about the success of Maljos, especially as of late with that win at Las Vegas and already showing out dramatically here at the short track at Phoenix. And then Hayes Booth looking for his first career WORC Dynamo Designs national victory, and would be the first time that we see 3 different first-time winners in the series. But for right now, looks like Booth may have to hold off Ryan Kame entering turn 3. And Kame will back out, but a side-by-side action behind them. That's Clayton Ramstead. Very top, Austin Doran looking to the inside for 9th. I think that pass will be complete, and Doran, easy work there on the fresher set of rubber. We have had a difference on the tires. You saw a lot of guys come in as of late, and a lot of guys on 9-lap-old tires, some on 12-lap-old tires. But for the moment, a lot of these guys with the advantage, but many of them electing to come in just for fuel only. And that may also be a factor in this as well. You see Joe Berger got a 14.5-second stop, and a little bit over that, 14.9 seconds, as here comes Sky McGurk looking for second, and he went for the race lead this time through in at turn 1. Lap 53, Sky McGurk looking to get to the front after being turned earlier in the race. McGurk having to play the patient game. One thing you have to do here, most notably at this Phoenix Raceway, but he's going to use all the space of the dogleg to gain as much track position as possible to get ahead of that 41. Can't quite do it. A lap car in front. That's Brady Cox in the 86. But he'll let the whole field by. And I think that might have hurt the 82's chances a little bit. It's going to bring him closer to Ethan Workman, who slid into 3rd. And so all of them again, single file, as Hayes Booth continues to play heavy defense and might have snagged the outside wall. He did a bit of the scraping there on the right rear. Now going to look underneath Steven Shipman, who got into the outside wall coming out of turn 4. And Hayes Booth looking to get back to the front. The problem with Booth, and even for Doran, is that now they're approaching 14 and 15 laps on their respective runs. While yes, they are the faster cars on the racetrack, and they've been the class of the field so far, that tire difference will matter. So we'll end up seeing potentially, if we get into a long green flag run, those guys try their hardest, Booth and Doran, to get back up to the very front of the field. Then it may be off or not if they end up equalizing, or they just end up much worse and faring in that decision, that somewhat of a direction comparative to your leaders right now, who continue to go side by side for the lead. Sky Gwerk continues to look underneath Joe Berge, the number 41, can't quite do it. They're side by side for P4 as Cole Williams under fire from Dimitri Maljos in the 60. Williams tried to pinch him going into 3 and 4, but couldn't quite do it, and it looks like Maljos going to maintain to the inside. Williams going to strike the outside wall, entering the first corner. And Maljos again, theoretical move up through the front as we continue to close things through for the race lead. Williams looking for a retaliation on the bottom. Maljos going to block, and again, side by side, entering turn 3, coming to turn 4. Some great moves put up by Dimitri Maljos tonight, and Cole Williams playing some outstanding defense. And by the way, both of them catching Ethan Workman, although they're battling on the track, so that's remarkable to see. Workman looking in the rearview mirror and having to see the number 60 and the number 896 go out of pole position while still putting faster laps. That last time through, 28.895 for Maljos, a 28.976 for Williams, and a 29 flat for Ethan Workman in the 25. So Maljos, despite using the challenge and what you would expect to have him lose time, he's gaining time here on that Clorox machine. We may see Maljos continue to build up that speed and maybe even look for the points lead coming out of tonight's race on the virtual Phoenix Raceway. So So there's a look back at the 41, Joe Berge, your race leader. Sky McGurk behind him in P2. And two different stories from both of these guys. Berge in his second full-time season in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. He was here one season back. We talked about his miraculous win at Auto Club Speedway and what helped him potentially get into the playoffs at one point. Unfortunately, did not go far at all and didn't run for the championship. And then Sky McGurk with those rookie stripes in the back end of his 82 in his rookie season and already performing out of the gates well. Finished P3 at Daytona. At Las Vegas wasn't necessarily the greatest race for this driver, but that's what you expect in rookie seasons. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, but no doubt there's a lot of consistency behind McGurk's car and himself as a driver. And as he continues to set laps faster than your leader, we should expect him to close in on that number 41 and put a move for the race lead. It's been so tough to pass here at Phoenix. We've seen a lot of potential passes be completely denied just because drivers are working the outside and drivers are able to work the lanes better. And it's just so tough to maintain the bottom when the driver on top is pinching you so far down the track. And for McGurk, he's doing all that he can, and he's shifting, by the way, in the middle of turns 3 and 4, the slower part of the track. And we'll keep an eye out whether that number 82 can make that move, but for right now, it's been off or not. Here's Maldros catching up to Ethan Workman, and a potential pass for P3. Maldros making it look easy there. Now here comes Cole Williams to the inside, and Williams doing a great job despite starting very deep in tonight's field. P30 where he started at the drop of the green in this Cactus 125, and for the first time up into the top 5. He's got Austin Doran, Hayes Booth right behind him. Remember, we talked about Hayes Booth smacking the outside wall. That's why you see some of the scraping there on the Ford Mustang on the right side. And Austin Doran way faster this time by, and that could be a big move, especially as we enter the final 20 laps of this race, because as they're all losing time to your leaders Joe Berge and Sky McGurk, they continue to try and play catch-up. But the thing is, they may not have enough time. It's been such a fight here from third on back, and such a struggle for these guys on the older tires that just got caught up at the wrong place just because of that caution that came out with Duncan Fall on the 28. And it has really put these guys in a different scenario. Now caution out again, and Connor Hervilla, Ryan Martin involved in a crash on the back straightaway. Tough break for Martin. You see the damage on the rear end of his Limeade Media Chevy Camaro. And Martin in trouble. It looks like Connor Hervilla might have had some help, or maybe just went by. As you see exactly what happened this time through, entering turn 1. That's Connor Hervilla bracing Collins, going at it for position in front of him. That's Ryan Barome in the 46. Josh Patterson in the 02. And it didn't actually start with him. It was just Connor Hervilla that was trying to get away from a spinning Brady Cox and then got into Martin as a result. And it looks like, I believe, that 86 might have had some help. Here's on board with Cox, and that is Frederick Seagraves on the inside. Looks like they both just got together. And then as the number 29 of Hervilla was trying to get out of it, we're right on board with him in just a little bit. As he was trying to escape all the mayhem, he ends up involving the 9 of Martin. Here's a look on board with Hervilla, working the inside, hopping on the brakes. Just nothing he could do, forcing a precarious situation, and unfortunately tagging Martin. Obviously not the intent for the 29. Just wanted to get out of harm's way, wanted to make sure he didn't pick up some engine damage, and that's also big at a track like Phoenix where engine performance is so crucial. Aerodynamic performance really isn't at a priority, but if you get engine damage, you lose RPMs, you're going to lose a lot of time on the straightaways. And now here come your leaders out into pit road. Joe Berge going to lead them all in for what may be the final stop in this Cactus 125. Quick stop for Berge. He's going to get out in his number 41 machine. And it looks like Sky McGurk going to come out in second. And there are drivers who did stay out. Looks like Dimitri Maldros, Cole Williams, Garrett White, Hayes Booth. All going to come out ahead. And Brayson Collins, who was the only driver to stay out, 29 laps, his tires are worn. It looks like he's going to take this strategy call, make it a risk. But it may work if we get another caution later on in tonight's event. And so that will again shuffle the order in a way that we have not seen all race long. And so league owner Brayson Collins going to be in the lead for the first time tonight here from Phoenix. And as we are under caution once again here from the virtual Phoenix Raceway, we remind you that our coverage of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series is brought to you by Dynamo Designs, your one-stop shop for all of your iRacing design needs. They can cater to any style you like and can ensure you will look good on track, all starting at just $5 per scheme. You can message Josh Patterson on Discord at Josh Patterson #9212 or on Facebook at JP Designs to get your iRacing scheme today. One of the many schemes that Josh Patterson has designed on behalf of Dynamo Designs, and Brayson Collins sporting that on his Chevy Camaro over the course of this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series season. And he will be the captain of the ship when we get back to Green Flag Racing, a lap number 69 of 84, approaching the final 15 laps. But he's got a lot of drivers hounding for the win behind him. Dimitri Moundros looking for 2 in a row. Garrett White, Cole Williams looking for their first this season. And many more hungry for that checkered flag in this last run. Pace car is down. Collins is up and away, back under green in the Cactus 125. And how long will it last before tires overcome that 5 car into turn 1? Collins going to slide away, high up in 1 and 2. He'll get forced 3 wide. That's Hayes Booth trying to make it all the way to the inside and make contact. Caution out again. Multiple cars around, and Nathan Workman way up the track and hard into the outside wall. Austin Dawn involved in the mix as well. Second straight week he's been involved in a caution. And a tough break for him as he had performed so well all race up to this point. And the caution flag comes out with 2 of the heavy Titans in tonight's field. And we'll see how it all began. That just spells trouble when you're going 3 and almost 4 wide in a turn 1 on a restart. And that's exactly what happened. You'll see it here from a top view, the 55, trying to make sure he can get around. That's Josh Patterson on the top, Sky McGurk, Joe Berge, Frederick Seagraves, and they make it 3 wide and 4 wide coming out of the dog leg. That's Connor Hervilla in the middle. And then right there, Hervilla and Seagraves make contact. Patterson gets into McGurk. The 44 also gets into the crash as well. And then as Workman tries to get around, he makes contact with Seagraves, gets tagged once and twice, then goes hard into the outside wall, and then gets the 55 at the very last second. We'll see here from the 25 how he was involved in the mess, tried to avoid it, and unfortunately couldn't. Right there, Seagraves gets to him. He goes sideways, has to correct it, then gets hit again. Has to lock up the brakes, and then slams into the outside safer barrier. And fortunately, doesn't pick up as much damage as he could have. But for Workman and for Austin Duran, that is a huge blow dealt to both of them, as they will have to repair their cars on pit road. Their track position virtually non-existent. And the time may not be on their side as we enter the final 13 laps and counting now with this yellow here in this Cactus 125. So Dimitri Moundros, with all of that, going to move to the race lead. That did help Brayson Collins because him on the oldest set of tires in this field up until this point. He's not going to pit, of course, with the track position that he's gained, but he only fell back to 3rd with all of the mayhem that happened in 1 and 2. So Collins going to be able to hold on to the spot, and that's basically what he would hope for if you're a driver on the older set of tires and you're just taking this risk to be out in front, gain some solid points in the championship. You may just want to be that driver that stays out and then hopes for all those yellows to fly sporadically and then be able to hold your track position and at least stop the bleeding. Because if this race stayed green, you can imagine Collins would have easily dropped all the way to the latter half of the top 20, maybe even worse. Unfortunately, Collins is able to hold his own. And much like we saw at Las Vegas 1 week ago, Dimitri Moundros is back in the game and back with an opportunity to take his 2nd straight WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win. He would be the first driver since Garrett White in the playoffs last season at Talladega and Iowa to do that. And if you go even further back in the category, I believe Christian Visconti was the last driver to do it in race number 2, race number 3 at Atlanta and Kansas. So Moundros looking to turn his season completely around, at least from what happened a couple of months back, and it has worked to his favor as Moundros will be in control of the restart once we get it. and it will believe it will be underneath 11 laps to go from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. So we'll take a look once more at the festivities that happened in Sin City 1 week ago when it started with this number 60 car, Dimitri Maldos up in front. You can imagine the nerves that he had after what happened in Atlanta last season. Got the pole, then immediately got into a crash. This time, way cleaner of an opening jump. He had Garrett White to his outside. White was able to take the lead, and Maldos aimed to look for it back, but then a caution came out as soon as that was happening. Austin Doron, who was involved in a caution tonight as of late, gets into Logan Suyi with Timmy Spatz, and both of them go around into the inside wall. But this was really all Dimitri Maldos, a strategy race that went into his favor, but really had to credit the amount of speed he had all night long. And despite this crash and being the only caution all night long, Garrett White running out of fuel, and then Dimitri Maldos being the driver to take over the lead, and he never looked back, and now in position to take his second straight win of the season with Garrett White, the driver he was fighting on that opening jump at Las Vegas, right behind him in P2. Single file restart, this time by with 11 laps to go from Avondale, Arizona. Maldos on the gas, up to the gears, back underway in what could be the final restart in the Cactus 125. Beautiful jump from Maldos. White having to pick things up, and he may have some challenges behind him. That's Hayes Booth, your pole sitter in P3. Once again, had some problems and now back in the mix as he ride on board with the Ford Mustang entering the final 10 laps as he tries to work on Garrett White for P2. There's Cole Williams now settling into fourth. He may have something to say about this battle for the top three as they go 3 wide in the latter half of the top 10. Look at Shipman in the middle, Brayson Collins on the top. That's Gino Merrill and Caden Rife all in the mix, and Rife up to 7th after being involved in a caution earlier tonight. This is huge for the 5 as Collins almost got into a crash that was Steven Shipman, got hit by Joe Berge in the 41. He's able to save it and will stay under green for now. You ride on board with Maldos in his cockpit as he enters turn 3. And we'll catch 9 laps to go. Garrett White looking to catch him. He set a faster lap as we cross the start-finish line 1 lap through. And Garrett White, Hayes Booth, Cole Williams all make it at least within a couple of tenths of a second between your top 4. Here's a look on board from White. We've seen how tough it's been to pass here at this Phoenix Raceway. Maldos knows that very well. And Garrett White trying all that he can to get what would be his 4th career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory. Here he comes. A great run out of turn 4. We'll look for it into turn 1 for the race lead. Maldos fighting back on the high side. White trying to maintain on the bottom. They're going to reel in Hayes Booth and Cole Williams even further. They almost make contact, and White having to back out as we enter 6 laps to go. You saw a checkup there for Hayes Booth with Garrett White that opened the door for Cole Williams, and now we're side by side for 1st and 3rd. White to the inside again, back to turn 1. Three drivers looking for what will be unique wins in their career. 2 looking for their first, 1 looking for his second, and 1 looking for his 4th. Williams got tagged by Hayes Booth going into turn 3, and Garrett White will catch the final 5 laps from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. Can he hold through with P1, or will a caution come out or something happen to save the day for everybody second on back? There's Williams back to the inside of Booth, but to no avail. And you can imagine every time the top 2 are going to hit the outside wall in synchronization. Here comes Booth and Cole Williams 3 wide for the lead in turn 3 and more contact. That's Cole Williams into the outside wall. They're still 3 wide for P1. Maldos trying to retaliate to the inside as drama builds between your leaders. White and Booth still inside, outside into the first corner. Maldos back to the front, but for how long? Here comes Booth trying to thread the needle. He'll get turned by White on the back straightaway, and the caution is out for the 6th time this evening, and we are entering green-white-checkered territory. Unbelievable. Tensions building at an all-time high between your top 4 all at the same time. And it results in Hayes Booth, your pole sitter, getting turned. And we'll watch and see what happened between your top 4. Watches the 60 and the 26. They enter turn 1. And we talked about it all night long. The problem with understeering this race car, wearing out the right front, and having a visit to that safer barrier once you exit for the back straightaway. And it happened to the 26 and the 60 at the same time. Look at them check up and slide into the wall. And as the 60 comes back down, he gets into Hayes Booth. And then Booth trying to make it 3 wide. He gets into White, who gets into Williams. And Williams goes hard into the outside wall. And there's nothing he could do. No caution came out as a result. But then you look at the more drama that happens after. They're still 3 wide for the lead. They get around the lap car. They check up. The 26 slides into the 03. And then right here as Booth mounts a huge run on your leader. Right here. Moves down the track. It's into the 26. And around he goes. And White could do absolutely nothing to get around it. And an unbelievable circumstance occurring here at Phoenix. And what that does, it takes Hayes Booth potentially out of this race. It takes Cole Williams out of this race. And it moves Ryan Kame, Brandon Sampson, and Caden Rife into your top 5. Moundros and White going to stay out even with the damage that they've picked up. They know that pitting now is going to be way too risky of a call. Now, we have never seen that much physicality from these drivers at a short track before. And we've seen a lot of instances happen at the short tracks last season. I know that Iowa wasn't necessarily the most outlandish race, but we saw a lot of drama build up at Irwindale when Austin Dorn went to victory lane. At Phoenix, saw a little bit of that in the opening segment of the race where we had a lot of cautions and a flurry of them come out around the same time. Bristol had a lot of drama as well, that fantastic battle for the race win. And that was it for last season, but we have never seen that much aggression by your top 4 all at once, as close as they were, all 4 immense talent behind the wheel. But we've deduced it to 2 with beat-up race cars and still a chance at a race victory from Phoenix as we will enter the final 2 laps and we'll get this restart on green-white-checkered. Looks like the lights will go out next time by, so once we cross the start-finish line, we'll have that 1 in the green signal, and this race will try to run its course to the end at lap number 86. So this race will extend, and we will enter our first of, I believe, 3 offered green-white-checkered attempts to get the checkered flag. So explain how that works. We're going to restart here with 2 laps to go. We'll have the field in control by your leader, Dimitri Moundros, when we get back to the stripe. If a caution comes out before the leader gets the white flag, we'll rack them up, do it all over again. We have those 3 attempts to finish this race under green. But if the leader does get to the white flag and nothing else happens in between that run and the restart to the white, then we'll just have this race end officially under the checkered flag, no matter what happens. Even if the field crashes, no matter what will go down, we'll have a winner at the end of tonight's race in this Cactus 125. And if we exhaust all 3 of our green-white-checkered attempts, then we will have our winner deduced by whoever was out at the time of the last caution. So Dimitri Moundros, Garrett White, your front row back to green with 2 laps to go. Brandon Sampson, Ryan Kame, row number 2. Caden Rife. And it looks like Gino Mero round out your top 6. Then it's Hayes Booth, Chris Downey, Joe Berge. It looks like John Canizaro rounding out your top 10. Green flag back in the air. Moundros leads them back to the stripe with 2 laps to go. Caden Rife already looking for 3rd underneath Brandon Sampson. But can Garrett White have anything left to say as they continue to go side by side for P3? They move cleanly out of turn 2. A little contact on the back straightaway. But Dimitri Moundros will see the white flag this time by, and Garrett White with 1 more opportunity to strike for the race win. Dimitri Moundros successful all night long. Hasn't really had the pace to be out in the front with Austin Doran and Hayes Booth. But when the moment struck, Moundros took advantage of it. White trying to build something up into turns 3 and 4 for the final time as he gets hounded by Brandon Sampson. But into the final 2 corners, Dimitri Moundros will make it 2 wins in a row. Checkered flag, Dimitri Moundros, win number 2 in his WORC Dynamo Designs National Series career. What a run by Moundros, going 2 in a row. And Garrett White there to congratulate. And Moundros immediately going for the burnout and the celebrations. An unbelievable turnaround. You saw how much he had to work to survive before that final caution with Hayes Booth and Garrett White. And the 60 of Dimitri Moundros to victory lane for the 2nd time in his career. And for the 2nd time in a row, the first driver since Garrett White to go 2 in a row in a season. And you can imagine the emotions behind the wheel of this Mustang. And we saw a lot of promise from last season's campaign out of this 60 and a lot of what he could do, but never really unleashed it at full potential. But as soon as this season is kicked off and winter 2022 arrived, it looked like Moundros came back a completely different sim racer. And now he grabs another win into his illustrious career and potential run for the series championship in 2023. Let's take a look at your full field results and see exactly where everybody came across the line at. Dimitri Moundros, his 2nd win in a row, comes here from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. Garrett White, a little short of the win, but still a top 3, something to be proud of. We'll talk to him and Dimitri Moundros, and your 3rd place finisher, Brandon Sampson, a clutch move from him underneath Caden Reif in the final 2 laps. Caden Reif come home in P4 to have Gino Mero in the 71, a driver we didn't talk about all night long, to his outside there in P5. Joe Berge ends up in P6, and his commemorative paint scheme, Hayes Booth, comes home in P7. We saw him get turned a little while ago with that last caution. Timmy Spats into P8, Ryan came into P9, and John Canizaro strong all race long, rounding out your top 10. James Bomar in 11th, Chris Downey in P12, Austin Doran comes back to 13th. Nothing Doran could do in the final laps there in the middle of traffic. Ryan Barone ends up P14. It'll be a top 15 for Clayton Ramstead in the number 21. Ethan Workman had a strong night to start, and it went sour for him near the end. It's P16. 17th will go to rookie driver Sky McGurk. 18th to Connor Hervilla. 19th to Ryan Martin. And it looks like Brayson Collins, who stayed out on that call with old tires, ends up the last driver inside your top 20. Steven Shipman, 21st. Cole Williams, 22nd. It'll be 23rd for Frederick Seagraves in his number 93 machine. Chase Marsden will be 24th. Josh Patterson, your defending champion, still struggling over the first 3 races. He finishes tonight 1 lap down in P25. 26 goes to Duncan Fall on his 28 machine. Brady Cox will be 27th. 28th will go to TJ Lair. Ryan Zabot in the number 10 will be 29th, and Henry Clapper rounding out your top 30. Final 2 drivers in tonight's field include Cole Day in the 999 and Jarek Hernandez, who was involved in a couple of cautions this evening. 32nd on the racetrack, 70 laps down. So as we close in on our unofficial results, it's Dimitri Moundros to victory lane for the 2nd time in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, and we'll have an opportunity to talk with the driver of the 60 as he gets to the win once more here in 2022. Dimitri, an unbelievable fight to the finish. You and the rest of the top 4 going at it before that final caution, but you held everybody off in the final 2. You get your 2nd win in a row. How do you feel? Dimitri, this is Kenneth up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy? Well, it looks like Dimitri Moundros, I'm not sure whether he can hear us or whether we can hear him. We'll see just a little bit whether we can. We'll try and reset things and see if it's just a technical issue on our end. We'll bring Dimitri Moundros back into the broadcast booth. Dimitri, do you got a copy? All right, well, it looks like we don't have Dimitri for the moment, but we'll talk to the driver who occupies victory lane here from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. We'll talk to the driver who comes home in second, just short of the checkered flag, and it is the number 26 of Garrett White. And Garrett, I know that you and the rest of the top four had an unbelievable battle before that last caution came out, but you had those final 2 laps. What more did you need there to get back to Moundros' rear bumper and try to take the win away?
Wow. What a race, first off. But just needed a little bit more car left. Once we hit the wall there and off of 2, it pretty much ruined it. So P2, not bad. Really good result after me screwing up Vegas, running out of fuel. But overall, it was a pretty tough race for us, really. Didn't qualify too well. Ran mid-pack for most of it, but found our way up towards the end of it and battled our teammate really well there.
It certainly was a lot of fun watching you out on the racetrack, but I want to talk about this race in its entirety. Obviously, a lot more yellows flying this season as opposed to what happened last season, where it looked like long green flag runs really were the key to being fast in last year's edition of this race. But this time it looked like just like medium runs felt like the way to go, and cautions coming out in the middle of strategy. What was that like for you mentally behind the wheel to adjust?
Yeah, it was very tough, to be honest with you. Trying to figure out when the cautions would come out, and obviously the caution did come out during green flag pit stops, and we kind of got the bad end of the deal there. So, just managing that, knowing that there could be a caution at any time, and really you're kind of, going flat out for most of the run. The fuel run here in this league is short anyways, but now the fact that there's cautions every 20 laps definitely made it more interesting.
Certainly made it more interesting, but you end up coming back for second. And by the way, second straight P2 finish here at Phoenix. This is the same place you finished in 1 season ago, but you can tell a lot of momentum building your way. I know things didn't go exactly in your favor at Daytona to kick off the campaign, but a 6th place finish at Las Vegas and a P2 here tonight. What does the momentum now tell you as you and your team move forward to Kansas 1 week from this evening's events?
Yeah, it's really good to have momentum. We're going to a Kansas track that I felt like, I was the best at last season. So having good momentum going into that race is really exciting. And Auto Club, I think we could have won that race too last season. So good tracks for us coming up. Congrats to Moondros for winning. We're on a team together on Whiteout Sim Racing. So to get a 1-2's really good.
Very special evening, no doubt, here from the virtual Phoenix Raceway and this Cactus 125. Before we let you go, Garrett, on this P2 finish, anybody else you want to give a shout out to or thank for tonight's phenomenal run?
Yeah, I just want to thank all the drivers at Whiteout Sim Racing, obviously, Dimitri Moondros and Ethan Workman. They drove their butts off today. I didn't get to say congratulations to them last week, but we're really doing some great things here. So let's try to keep it up.
Optimism at an all-time high for sure. Garrett, congratulations on the P2 on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, and wishing you and your team the best of luck moving into Kansas next week.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
So that is Garrett White in the number 26 coming home in P number 2. We'll talk to the driver. We'll see if we can try to get the driver who finishes in P number 3. That is Brandon Sampson in the 96. It doesn't look like we have him, nor your race winner, Dimitri Moundros. So unfortunately, we will not have a chance to talk with the driver in victory lane tonight. We'll have an opportunity, though, to talk with Caden Reif, who comes home in P4 and makes up what's been a miraculous comeback from the start of the race. Caden, you were involved in a crash to start, and it looked like things weren't going to go your way at the back of the field, but you pick things up, you find the right place at the right time at the end of this race, and you finish P4. Walk us through how your night went in entirety from the Phoenix Raceway.
Yeah, it was a crazy race for sure. Spent the whole race outside the top 20 in the first bit there. Just didn't find the pace, got stuck behind slower cars in those wrecks early, obviously, and then had enough fuel to stay out a few extra laps, and would have been able to one-stop the rest of the race. So I stayed on the racetrack like a lot of those guys did, and then a caution came out, and that saved my whole race. I ended up getting stuck with some of the guys who were a lot faster than me in the first half of the race, learned their line, sort of just trying to figure out how to run the racetrack, and spent a lot of the third quarter of the race getting a better line, gained a lot of pace, had top 10 speed, people kept wrecking around me. To tell you the truth, have no idea how I finished top 5, but whatever happens, happens on the racetrack, and yeah, just thankful to be here in the first place, but really crazy race. Glad I could get the result. that I did, and hoping I can carry speed at a couple of future tracks, Kansas and Cali, a couple of tracks I'm pretty good at, I think, at the very least Cali. So hoping that we do better over the next couple weeks and carry this momentum. Been a good couple of races, and yeah, we'll take it one race at a time and see how it goes.
Crazy. Definitely an understatement for how this race ended up with the amount of cautions and the great racing that we had at the very front. But you in this 97 finish in P4 tonight, and you talked about some of the tracks that are coming up. Kansas, next intermediate track on the schedule coming up 1 week from tonight. What do you make of the track at America's Heartland?
Well, it's going to be interesting. Kansas, I don't currently own on the sim as of yet, so I'll have to put a lot of practice in. It feels like a track I could be good at. I've always been better at those larger tracks, kind of sticking on the top lane. I've done a lot of California in the B cars on the sim, though, and look forward to that race a lot. I think that's might be the best chance, not at a plate track, that I could maybe go and win a race. Obviously, there's a lot of people out here that are going to be tough to beat. It's always been that way, but you know, just looking for pace. Need to look forward to these next couple of races and really take advantage of this momentum. We didn't have a great start to the season. Obviously got DQ'd at Daytona, and Vegas was all right, but could have been a lot better. So we'll see what kind of pace we pull up at Kansas. I had a lot of speed at Vegas, and it's kind of a similar racetrack. So, you know, again, take it one step at a time. Look forward to the future races and maybe collect as many points as we can.
It looks like the momentum might start to build off of tonight's race here from the Phoenix Raceway. Before we let you go, Caden, on this P4 effort here in this Cactus 125, anybody else you want to thank for making this run possible?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Johnny C. and Brandon Sampson. Brandon is part of the team that we own together, and him and John, I learned a lot, like I said, during this race of the lines late in the race. I spent a lot of time behind John, learning his line, and that's the reason I actually had speed in the second half of the race. I just want to thank all the guys that have supported me up to this point, any friends that might be watching this, but, you know, just grateful to be here in the first place, and just want to make a statement, you know. Not many people know who I am, so I'd like to maybe change that.
Well, it looks like it might change tonight, Caden. On behalf of our team here at the KBueno Racing Network, I want to send you congratulations on the 4th place finish from Phoenix, and wishing you and your team the best of luck moving forward into the rest of the regular season.
Appreciate it.
So Caden Reif in the 97 picks things back up at the end, comes home in P4. And you look at that bright teal and blue Seattle Mariners Ford Mustang as he comes home in that position. We'll talk to one more driver before we conclude our coverage on the KBueno Racing Network, and we'll talk to the driver who comes home 2 spots behind the 97 of Caden Reif, and that is Joe Berge in the number 41. Joe, of course, you had an up-and-down race, a lot of tumultuous action throughout the field where you were in the back trying to get to the front, in the front leading the race. What was it like, this experience in this very dynamic Phoenix race?
Well, first of all, I was not expecting to be interviewed, so hello. But second of all, honestly, I was not excited for this race, at least like in terms of the racetrack. I'm really not the biggest fan of Phoenix. I think it's a very inconsistent track, and it kind of showed with my performance out there. I wasn't really impressed with our qualifying pace. I mean, we topped the practice sheets, which I'm impressed with, but I feel like we had a lot more speed in qualifying. The race itself, it was very chaotic. I was around very I was around very chaotic people at some points. But especially when I was at the front, we had some really good racing. I was racing with Sky the whole time when I was leading, and that was, I honestly think that was probably my highlight of the race. But because I'm never usually leading in mid-race, but other than that, I mean, I warmed up to it by the time the end of the race happened, but I was also kind of mad because of the caution where I didn't pit, because that kind of screwed me up because the pace car wasn't there, and I was going to end up getting a black flag, so I was in a lose-lose situation. But looking back on it now, I feel like that was probably better for it to happen like that, because I don't really know where I would have been if I hadn't done that. So it's really, I'd say Phoenix leaves a lot for people, I'd say, if that makes sense.
Certainly was a wild race from start to finish, but I want to talk about, obviously, the performance that you had here at this track this evening in this third race. But the paint scheme that you have tonight, I know I covered it a little bit earlier in the broadcast, but you have this paint scheme in commemoration of your girlfriend, Maddie, going into surgery tomorrow. Can you talk to us a little bit about that paint scheme and obviously the design, the inspiration of the design for tonight?
Well, the design itself was designed by Squid Industries. Check them out on Instagram. But the paint scheme itself, man, this is gonna take me a lot. But paint scheme itself, it's got BoJack Horseman, got Big Mouth, two of her favorite shows. I think the backgrounds and the characters are all very notable, and I don't know if it showed on the broadcast very well. It showed I had her name under the giant N on the hood, and I also had her initials on the roof. So yeah, this car means a lot. I know it's sim racing, I know it's just a game, but I mean, there's a lot of things where you can incorporate a lot of stuff into or from real life into this game. And going into the race, I was just like, I want to try to win. I wanted to try to at the very least, get third. I mean, I didn't get third, I got sixth, so I'm not really that ashamed of it, but we were out here to win, and this whole time I was just thinking about her. I'm worried sick, but I just hope everything's gonna be okay tomorrow. And yeah, that's really all I got for it, to be honest.
Well, Joey, thank you so much for taking some time in the booth to talk to us. And obviously, on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, we're wishing Maddie a successful surgery and wishing her the best and wishing for a speedy recovery as well in the coming days and weeks. But a great finish here tonight from Phoenix. I know Kansas is next week. That's going to be a lot of fun. But before we let you go, Joe, on P6 from Phoenix, anybody else you want to thank for making tonight's run possible?
Obviously, first of all, I gotta thank Maddie. She's supporting me. She's watching the broadcast right now. I'm pretty sure her family is also watching it. So, just a message out to them. Maddie, John, Jen, I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys support me with whatever I do, and I really appreciate it. I gotta thank my buddy Zach for making the scheme for me. He whipped it up in about 2 days. I gotta thank some of my best friends, Dragon, Vince, Felix, Manny, Jason, Nick, Cole, all of them guys. I gotta thank Brayson for putting on this show. Sorry. Gotta thank Brayson for putting on the show. Gotta thank you for putting the broadcast on. And we're gonna hope that we have a great race next week. And I'm not even thinking about next week. We got some valuable points. We got a bunch of laps led. We didn't get any incidents, but honestly, none of that matters. I'm just hoping for everything to go good tomorrow, and I really appreciate, and so does Maddie. Maddie also appreciates everyone's support, and we'll hopefully be able to give updates within the next 2 days. Again, very motivated.
Well, again, Joe, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us. And again, wishing you and Maddie the best of luck moving forward into the next coming days. A fun scheme, a great finish here tonight from Phoenix. And Joe, thank you so much again. Looking forward to seeing you back on the racetrack, hopefully next week at Kansas.
Yep.
So that is the 41 of Joe Berger, who actually led a chunk of this race tonight, led a couple of laps while out on the pit road strategy. And the 41 comes home as our final interview here in this evening's broadcast. He comes home in P6. The attention, though, comes back to Dimitri Mundros in the number 60 machine, who gets his second straight WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory. And just a week after we had the emotions from Dimitri after his first career victory in this league, he comes back and does it again. Doubles down on that bet on himself, and the 60 back into victory lane once more here from the Phoenix Raceway. So that will do it on our broadcast here for the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series in the Cactus 125. But just before we conclude things here on the KBueno Racing Network, I want to show you what's up next on the schedule here after this Cactus 125. And for the rest of this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series schedule, we knock off Phoenix off the list. We go back to intermediate racing 1 week from tonight on December 8th. We go to America's Heartland, Kansas Speedway for the 4th race in the campaign. Then we go back to the West Coast Auto Club Speedway, where Joe Berge went to victory lane 1 season ago. That'll be race number 5 in mid-December. We near the end of December on December 29th with Long Beach just after the Christmas vacation. And that'll be a lot of fun to have that race on the road course. The first time the series ever visits Long Beach with these NASCAR Xfinity Series machines. Patriotic race will happen, race number 7 at Texas Motor Speedway. And we go to Charlotte Dirt, Atlanta, Myrtle Beach to race 10 and the final one of our regular season. We kick off the playoffs at Charlotte, Bristol, and Pocono for the first round. Chicagoland, Talladega, Martinsville for our second and the final race at Homestead Miami Speedway in mid-March to decide our 2022-2023 Season 2 champion. So Dimitri Mundros gets career win at number 2 and looks to carry all that momentum into the next race at the virtual Kansas Speedway. So for all of us here at the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, for Brayson Collins and everybody at the World Online Racing Championship, and from everybody here at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Byer, Keelan Belsha, and Francisco Bacallao, my name is Kenneth Bueno in the booth saying so long and thank you so much for watching our coverage of the Cactus 125 at Phoenix, and congratulations to Dimitri Mundros. We'll see you in 1 week time for more WORC Racing action from America's Heartland.